Alrighty, guys, what's up? So if you guys didn't see the big fucking huge news, and you guys may be able to figure out a little bit based off of what's in front of you, as of today, very early this morning, Ferrari and Sebastian Vettel confirmed that after 2020, they will no longer be continuing together. So Vettel is out of Ferrari. No longer gonna be there. Supposedly it was amicable. They both decided they couldn't be there. They said it's not about money. I think that's a load of crap. I think that Vettel wanted more money. Ferrari wouldn't offer it to them, so they couldn't reach that agreement. Think what you want. That's what I think. But I'm gonna go through today, and I kind of want to go through and look at what my personal predictions are for the 2021 driver lineup. Now, as I see, I've labeled Racing Point as Aston Martin because that is going to be what they are. Just a little note on that for those who aren't familiar, they are becoming Aston Martin Racing. So this, for all intents and purposes, is Racing Point for Aston Martin. Also, up here, you will see a few Formula 2 drivers who I think are in contention to not only move up to Ferrari, but I believe these are going to be the three that are going to be moving up 100% to Formula 1. Now, there could be a couple more depending on the future of Haas, although with their future as a team in general in a lot of question right now, I'm not really sure. And honestly, I could see them pulling out depending on how this season goes. So I'm not going to make any predictions on them because I don't think they're going to be pulling anybody up because honestly, I could totally see them either selling off their team or leaving Formula 1 entirely without anything along those lines. So yeah, getting right into it. So, like I said, Vettel out of Ferrari right now. So we'll drop him in the no seat right now. So the big question that we have to start out with is not where Vettel here is going to be going, but where any of these drivers are going to go to replace him in the seat at Ferrari. So there are a few contenders that have been rumored. So I'll start out with the big rumors right now. Oh, by the way, the ones with the green glow behind them, these are drivers who are confirmed to 100% have a contract for 2021. So unless Ferrari is going to buy out a contract for one of these drivers, they will not be going to Ferrari for 2021. As per sources, they have all signed contracts for that season. That being said, Sergio Perez is one of the... Well, he's not a rumor. What am I talking about? I'm getting way ahead of myself. So going through the rumors, I'll just go along the line here. Bottas has always been rumored. We have Sainz. We have Ricciardo. And we have Giovinazzi. So these are the four drivers who are all rumored to be going up to Ferrari here. So just going through these real quick, I think that Bottas isn't going to go anywhere for right now. Now, the big question is going to be whether or not somebody from Williams comes up, and that would be George Russell. However, I do think that's going to happen. I just don't know. I just don't see Bottas going to Ferrari just because, yes, he'd be a great number two. He's already proven that he's willing to be a number two driver. He will take team orders. He'll do anything he needs there. That will allow Ferrari to really prop up the golden boy Charles Leclerc. But I just don't see him leaving Mercedes. I see him more so either finishing out his career at Williams to replace George Russell, or I see him going to McLaren or Renault, potentially Aston Martin, something along those lines. So I just don't see Valtteri Bottas being the one for Ferrari. Yes, I do know that it was an early dream of his to eventually drive for Ferrari, although I feel like he's been winning at Mercedes enough and he's been at Mercedes long enough now to have realized that, going to Ferrari, as long as things continue the way they are, where Mercedes is pretty consistently beating out Ferrari, that it's going to be a never meet your heroes moment. He's going to get there. He's not going to be performing as well. And it's really going to be a massive disappointment if he were to drive for Ferrari. And I feel like Bottas is late enough in his career where he doesn't need that drive. He's already probably thinking about retirement. It's come up in the past. So I don't think he wants to end his career in a disappointment. I think he wants to end it somewhere where he knows exactly how it's going to be. He knows those expectations. And maybe even mentor the next generation. So I think for now, Bottas is going to stay where he's at there. I will come back to him later in this video, though. Going on to Sainz, so this is something that I originally thought was going to be a pretty hot contender. Looking through and watching a few videos that have come out from other commentators and kind of think about it more, I don't think he's going anywhere. I think McLaren are going to be very key to hold on to him. And I think that this is just, he's way too valuable to McLaren, and they're going to offer him a lot to stay there. I mean, they have one of the best driver lineups we've seen at McLaren in a very long time. The chemistry between Sainz and Lando is just phenomenal. They have great chemistry. They work well together. There's this little to no, at least from what we can see, tension between those two drivers. I mean, we see Lando calling Carlos all the time on stream. They have started doing a little bit of sim together. So I just realistically do not see them at all really seeing these drivers splitting up. And that's going to be a lot of play within the McLaren administration to retain both of these two drivers here. And I feel like Mercedes may have a little bit of play too, with them using Mercedes power units going down the line. They may want to maintain this and not have a Ferrari-influenced driver into a Mercedes seat, although that's very, very much speculation, and don't think that's going to be much, if at all, a factor. But I think this is going to be the lineup that stays the way it is. So that brings us down to Antonio Giovinazzi and Daniel Ricciardo. Now, before you guys jump at my throat and say, "Oh, Giovinazzi's not good enough. He's just an alpha. He's not good," I completely fucking agree with you. I truly do not believe that Giovinazzi is at all on par to be driving in one of the top 3 teams at all. I don't think he's a terrible driver. I think he's young to Formula One. I think he has some more work to do. I don't think he's at the point where he should be in a Ferrari seat. I mean, look at what Charles Leclerc did compared to Giovinazzi in the same car. That Leclerc just flew through the order. He did so much for that car compared to Giovinazzi, where he's being beaten out by his teammate quite a few of the races. I mean, granted, it's Kimi Räikkönen, but Kimi is, he's kind of over the hill. He's still a fantastic driver, but if Giovinazzi was at the level of Charles Leclerc, he should be dominating in that Alpha. Not to the point of winning races, obviously, but really kicking the ass at the midfield. And just, we haven't seen that same level of dominance in the Alpha that we saw from Charles Leclerc when he was there. So I don't think he deserves the Ferrari seat right now. I think he's definitely going to work his way to that point. But the reason I'm keeping him in right now is strictly Ferrari's history. They have a very long history of favoring the Italian drivers, and especially one who's in what's effectively their junior team at Alfa Romeo. Alfa uses the Ferrari engines. Ferrari's very, very close with Alfa when it comes to working with them to develop their team. And I that's why I think that he is a very possible fit to be driving as a number 2 driver alongside Charles Leclerc. And again, that is going to be a number 2 drive, so that could possibly fit very well in this circumstance. Now, Daniel Ricciardo, on the other hand, has experience in top-level cars. He drove for Red Bull for several years alongside Max Verstappen, and while you can make the argument that he ran away from Max here to Renault, he also has been searching for a championship drive. He's been hungry for it, and it's been pretty well known that Daniel Ricciardo has been very liked by Ferrari, and they've been looking at him, and they've very much wanted to bring him on to a drive. So if Ferrari is trying to get another driver that's going to be dominant, the answer is going to be Daniel Ricciardo. Now, the big question is going to be, do they want a strict number 2 driver that's going to sit behind Charles Leclerc? Or are they going to go for something equal where they're going to want to figure out who's going to be the best driver and determine from there? The answer to that, I believe, in my opinion, is going to be that Charles is going to be the number 1 driver. He finished ahead of Sebastian Vettel last season. It almost seemed like by the end of the season they were favoring him pretty heavily. So I do think it would be a number 2 drive. However, in a Ferrari, we could see Daniel Ricciardo, doing very well even as a number 2. And although, you see, this is where it becomes hard, is because we know that Ricciardo very much wants to have that number one drive, and they don't want to be shadowed by one of the young guys because he wants that championship so much. And while I do think he's capable, I just don't know if he's going to be beating any of the other guys on the grid. I mean, I think, Hamilton, Leclerc, Verstappen, those guys are going to be outperforming Daniel Ricciardo. Not super heavily, but they're going to be outperforming him in most circumstances. Then again, he was in the Red Bull, and we weren't really able to see it truly perform against the Mercedes, kind of the Ferrari during that time. So it's going to be very interesting. And this is honestly the most difficult decision that I have to make here. I still don't even know 100%. However, I think that with the recent restructuring over the last year or so, give or take, at Ferrari internally, I think they're going to make the smart move and go for as many points as they possibly can get, allow their drivers to maybe race a little bit, and I think that we're going to be seeing Daniel Ricciardo up in Ferrari. That is going to leave Alfa Romeo here with Antonio Giovinazzi, and that is going to show us with currently one open seat so far at Renault. Now, this is where things are going to be getting interesting. Obviously, we're not going to be seeing Vettel, unless there's some sort of shock move where he goes to a Renault power, which I do not believe he will, because he's going to want some sort of competitive car. Renault is an established team, so there's really no room for him to build, one final legacy. And as a 4-time world championship winner, I just don't see him going to Renault whatsoever. What I do see, however, is sending him down to Aston Martin, and this is where Sergio Perez is going to come back into play. I could totally see him ending up at Aston. Now, I bring up Sergio because in my eyes, I see zero chance unless the board of directors has enough pull. First of all, voting power and enough balls to kick out the son of one of their biggest investors, Lawrence Stroll. And if they remove Lance here, then that could be Vettel. However, I don't know exactly how much pull in terms of the board of directors at Aston Martin that Lawrence Stroll is going to have. I do know that there is a pretty hefty investment from Mercedes chief. Oh my God, I'm completely blanking. There's a lot of investment at Aston Martin. Toto Wolff, I don't know why his name flew out of my memory there for a second. But we could see that. However, I truly do not see that they're going to risk throwing away this much money by getting rid of Lance Stroll. It's been a pretty common trend that wherever Lawrence Stroll goes, Lance follows with. So I think that's while he doesn't have a team contract, I think it's pretty much guaranteed that he's not going anywhere. So that brings me to Sergio Perez. While a decent driver, while a great driver, I think that they would much rather have the 4-time championship driver, Vettel, in place of Perez. And, you can argue that, Vettel's going downhill. He was shadowed by his teammate, but the reality is he really wasn't. When you really go into and look at results and look at how the races played out, it really was a pretty good back and forth between Vettel and Leclerc. Now, Leclerc obviously did come out on top. He finished a decent amount better. I believe 4th in the championship, compared to Vettel's 8th. So, there was definitely a lot better results from Leclerc. However, Sebastian Vettel was still performing, and I honestly think that we could see Aston Martin trying to get this driver. For one, Sebastian is going to bring massive sponsorship. So he's going to bring the money, and Aston Martin they have money. It's Aston. They have a massive bank behind them. They have whatever they can. So they can cancel Sergio's contract. They can buy him out, pay the restitution, and remove him from the drive to put in Sebastian Vettel. Now, this is something I think definitely will happen. In my opinion, I think this is the most likely. I don't see him going to Alpha unless we saw Kimi retire and Vettel slotted into there just to follow suit of the Ferrari going to Alpha to retirement. However, I don't know if we're going to be seeing Kimi retire at the end of the season. I think possibly at the end of 2021 to just retire before the new regulations. However, right now, I do not see Kimi retiring unless that news comes out of the blue. There haven't really been any rumors, at least credible ones. So Kimi retiring, I don't think is in the picture. McLaren is going to hold on to their drivers. And currently, I think that we're going to see Sergio out of the drive. Now, what's going to be incredibly interesting is looking at the Renault slot. Now, these two drivers have a lot of history. They both raced for Racing Point, that was Force India, together. And there was a lot of tension between them, especially when it came to these two drivers. One of them had to lose their seat to Lance Stroll, and it ended up being Ocon, almost entirely because Perez had the money to back the team better than Ocon. I mean, they were both very equal drivers. I think Ocon was the better investment for strictly talent. He's a lot younger. He's upcoming. Mercedes loved him. I mean, if Bottas retired before Russell came on, I think that we would have seen Ocon in the Mercedes seat, or we would have seen Russell fast-tracked up to a Mercedes, one of the two. However, that's not how it played out, so we now see Esteban Ocon at Renault. I do not see at all these drivers ending up here. I think there's going to be too many issues. I think Renault knows that this is going to be a very problematic driver lineup just because of chemistry. That's not going to happen. Going down the line, looking at these other teams, we could look at Haas. I don't want to ignore them. They still are on the grid for 2021. They are going to be there. It's just going to be the future. Neither of these two drivers have a contract as of yet. And if you look through and you watch the Formula 1 Drive to Survive season, now take it with a grain of salt, is a docudrama, so it is edited and put together in a way that's going to create a sense of drama that's not 100% true. However, you do get a pretty good insight of what's going on. These drivers are not on good terms with their team, specifically Romain Grosjean. For whatever reason, they keep renewing him. I think he's a bad driver. I don't think he's good. He puts others at risk. He crashes constantly. He causes more damage to this team than any other driver in their respective teams, to their cars. I think that Grosjean is going to get let go from Formula 1, unless there's some miracle, again, which, of knowing his history, is incredibly likely. And that's going to leave now two holes in Formula 1. Now, we could see Perez in desperation going to Haas, and I don't think we're going to see any of these new guys heading up into Haas, because I don't think Haas is going to be picking up these new drivers just because I'm pretty sure these new drivers know that there's pretty much no future at Haas, and Haas is going to be, I think, desperate for this season to pull a lot of results, because I think if they're not pulling results, they're going to be out of the sport. So taking the risk on a new driver, I don't think is in their best interest right now. For most other teams, having a new driver, having a new performer is great. I just don't think it's in Haas's best interest to pull a driver that's not going to be performing. So I think that if this is the shuffle that we're going to be seeing here, we're going to be Ricciardo up here, Vettel down into this, and that means we can get rid of that right there. But I think this is so far what we're going to be seeing. Grosjean out, Perez over to Haas, which would be interesting. That is the biggest stretch of my predictions here. However, I do not see these two at Renault working together at all. And unless they pull the Italian bullshit card and pull Giovinazzi up to Ferrari before he's ready, it's 100% going to be Daniel Ricciardo. And looking at the news with how Ricciardo is not committing to Renault and he's openly saying that he's in no rush to sign anything with Renault, I think that's a pretty good indicator that this is going to be the move to Ferrari for Daniel Ricciardo. Now, let's take a quick look at the Mercedes drivers here, because this is where things are going to be interesting. Neither of these drivers are in contract. There's no way in hell Lewis Hamilton's going anywhere. So that's going to leave Valtteri Bottas. I believe he is going to be out after this season. I think he's going to move away. I just don't think he's going to Ferrari. This is going to open up a seat in Mercedes, which I think George Russell is going to slot up into. Damn, I made them tiny. So that is going to, I believe, be the driver lineup for Mercedes. And then we are either going to see Valtteri Bottas retire or go over to Williams. Now, I honestly believe that we're going to be seeing Bottas retire. It's been hinted at for many years. He's getting old. I don't think he's going to pull Kimi and go down to Alpha. I think he, at some point, is going to retire. That's my opinion. I think he's going to retire just because he's not going to be able to get the contract he wants. I don't even know if Mercedes are going to want to retain him just because they're going to pull George Russell up to Mercedes, and that's an incredibly likely outcome. And looking at how George Russell performed with the car that he had, granted the Williams was awful. He did as much as he possibly could with that car, in my opinion. That leaves an open seat at Williams, and while that could be Valtteri Bottas there to mentor Nicholas Latifi for another year or two until he retires, I think this is going to be where we see one of the Formula 2 drivers come up from F2. Now, I have Michael Schumacher, or Michael, I wish. We have Mick Schumacher in here. I don't think there's any chance. I had him in here as a possibility, because this is sort of the alternate that if Ricciardo stays at Renault and Giovinazzi moves up to Ferrari, there's a possibility they'll sign Mick Schumacher strictly because of the name. I don't think he's ready for Formula 1, though. I think he needs another season in Formula 2 before he's ready. So unless he just gets the name right seat, I don't think he's going to be in Formula 1 for 2021. I think 2022, with the new regulations, we could absolutely see Mick Schumacher in Formula 1. I just don't think he's ready. This is where these two drivers come in right here. Giotto is a Formula 2 driver. He performed very well, third in the championship in 2019. Unfortunately, there's no 2020 to look at a bit closer in time. However, he is an Italian driver who we could be potentially seeing to Alpha. Now, this is going to be another question of whether we're going to be seeing Alpha pick up this guy right here. This is where things become incredibly complicated with Formula 2, because you also have to look at their young driver academies. Jack Atkin is a Renault driver, if I am not mistaken. I think we can see Jack Atkin to Renault beside Esteban Ocon, and potentially seeing Giotto heading over to Williams. Now, Nicholas De Vries, who I originally thought was going to be jumping up into Formula 1, is getting pretty well settled into Formula E. I don't see him moving up. So I think it's going to be Giotto and Atkin, unless there's some behind-the-scenes money that we don't see that's going to be pulling other drivers up. Now, there are, if we pull up the Formula 2 standings for 2019, we do have, Latifi's already in. This is Giotto in third. We do have Kamara in fourth. Jack Atkin ended up in fifth. However, he's already been looked at in Formula 1. He's the Renault Driver Academy. I do think Kamara and Matsushita are definitely ones to consider. However, I think that the way I have it right now is going to be the young drivers moving up into Formula 1. Now, it is a very radical look at what the potential drivers could be. However, I do think these are my personal predictions. This is based off of what I've seen in the news, looking at rumors, history between drivers. So let me know what you guys think down below. Anything you think is different. The one I'm not too sure about at all is this move to Haas. But yeah, let me know down below. What do you guys think is going to be the move? Where do you think Vettel's going? Who's replacing him? And what is going to be the result of the driver market shakeup for 2021? If you guys haven't already, please like and subscribe. I try to post sometimes. If you want to really get my content, I stream a bit more on twitch.tv/critter. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.